Computer repair guys. What's the craziest stuff you've seen on a customer's computer? Story 1. Let me see. 1. PC covered in cat piss from top to bottom. So badly the paint was peeling off. The only PC I ever had to fix using dial soap and a hose. 2. Laptop brought in by a car dealer who had tons of corn on it, and the whole laptop was covered in powdery loose skin. Dandruff stuff. 3. 15-year-old kid who brought his PC to get data transferred. One of the iTunes folders kept coming back with corrupted files. Investigation of problem found tons of gay furry corn with penises 2 times bigger than the drawn characters. I had to deliver and set up his PC again at his parents' house, which was one of the most G-rated and conservative homes I've ever been in. And I come from a conservative family. Really creepy. 4. Mentally challenged guy who brought his cheap DV2000 laptop into our shop frequently to have viruses removed. He had a video saved to his desktop he took with the onboard camera and HP camera software. The video was him, without a shirt on, all greasy, sitting on his bed, staring at the camera and making loud breathing noises, but being otherwise motionless for about 5 minutes. The video also had those little graphic overlays on it to look like a picture frame with pink hearts that would bubble up around his face. Oh, and his password was FUCKS. My boss started referring to him as Mr. Ux. 5. There was a frequent customer of ours who had a Buffy the Vampire Slayer system theme installed on her Windows PC that had so many startup sound effects and animations, it was 15 minutes of waiting and listening to quotes and theme songs before the PC was even usable. 6. Not exactly OS related, but we had a customer storm out of our store once after he got in an argument with my boss because he thought that it was important to route the cables inside the PC with as few bends and curves as possible to allow the electrons in the wires to flow faster. 7. Guy brings in his PC saying his internet won't work. Booted it up. Found that his browser had so many toolbars installed you literally could not see the contents of web pages anymore at all. 8. Guy brought his laptop in because the screen won't come on anymore. Top of the laptop's lid was melted into the PC board on the back of the LCD panel. Turns out he admitted that he placed a leaking bottle of self-warming spicy lube on the top of his laptop while going at it with his wife, and the lube dissolved the laptop's plastic. 9. PC was overheating, so I opened it up. Dead mouse and mouse nest in CPU heatsink. Please, no dead mouse jokes. 10. CD drive and PC weren't working. CD had exploded inside the drive. 11. Customer's PC won't turn on. Plugged in power, blue sparks and flames shot out of the back of the power supply. Replaced power supply. PC tested fine. 12. PC brought in, takes too long to boot. I don't even remember what he had running, but the string of icons on the right-hand side of the clock reached all the way to the start button and wrapped 3 times. 13. Guy comes in and buys an LCD monitor, then comes back yelling at us because he can't get the internet on it. After about 15 seconds, we figure out that he doesn't actually have a PC. He doesn't want to buy one. He just wants a quote for the monitor so he can get the damn thing to kick over. I've been working this job for 13 years. I'm sure there's a lot more I could add to this list with enough time. Self-warming spicy lube dissolved the plastic? How is that safe to use on your anatomy? I honestly don't know where to start with this one, and this is just the first entry. If this is how we're starting, I can't wait to read the rest of these stories. Plus, people don't take care of their computers. Get some compressed air and dust your computer out once in a while, why don't you? Story 2. I was a manager at a computer repair for a retailer a couple of years ago. We had a client's computer in the back running various malware and virus scans. I was doing morning paperwork in the back near the computer. This PC had its screensaver on displaying random photos from the My Pictures folder. Various family members, children's birthday parties, the usual stuff. Then from my sight, I swear to God, I saw a picture of a woman from the shoulders up with her throat cut. As soon as I realized what I was making out, I directed my full attention and it was back to photos of a car show. As the day went on, I thought nothing of it and proceeded to continue my work until I was bringing another computer's PC to the back to work on, and again, from my perimeter, a likelihood of swearing I saw a bloody body bound in the trunk of a car. At that moment, I began to freak out. I grabbed one of my employees and explained to him the situation. We then sat for 10 minutes and watched this screensaver. It's against company policy to search through the client's personal files without absolute just cause. We then proceeded to see a photo of bodies in a shallow grave out in the woods, and another photo of a severed hand down in the kitchen drawer. I then went and got the general manager and informed him of the situation and had him view the screensaver. We then felt that it would be in everyone's best interest to contact law enforcement. In about 15 minutes, the owner of the computer and another gentleman show up. I proceed to tell him that his computer is not ready and it will be a while. He then informs me that he was called there because someone reported there were some photographs of a grisly murder that we had found. I showed him his computer, and then his partner then began to laugh at him. Apparently, he went against police policy and took some of his work home with him and had never noticed his work photos were being used as a screensaver. Too long didn't read? A detective unknowingly brings me his computer filled with gory homicide pictures that get mixed with his screensaver. I soil myself thinking I'm dealing with a murderer. Call the cops and the detective returns to investigate his own computer. Oh my God, when I first started reading this, it sounded like a creepypasta. I half expected it to end up being some malicious computer spirit cursing a computer with messed up images. I'm scared that these images are real, but I'm glad they're from someone investigating the violence and not some killer being lazy with his file management. Yeesh, that's gotta be the most screwed up crap that person has ever seen on anyone's laptop. Story 3. One fairly trailer-trashy gentleman brought in his Windows 98 PC. This was around 2008, and his wallpaper was a rather portly, nude black woman who he informed me was his ex-girlfriend. He brought in the computer several times throughout the next few months, all for silly questions about how to use a damn thing. And since we do a free checkup at the counter, I had to look. Every time his wallpaper was the same nude woman in a different pose. The last time he came in, I booted it up, and the wallpaper was a mirror shot of him at full mast holding himself. I unplugged the power cable immediately, there were people behind him, gave his computer back, and told him not to come back to my shop ever. And now we have a policy of not touching anything running an old OS, because the people who do tend to be crazy. Child corn. Twice. Both guys were arrested. One time I was checking out the latest AOL email issue. It was no big deal. She was done and out in just a few hours. A week later, I got a call from her stating that we logged into her adult friend finder account and changed things. She was thoroughly embarrassed by it and was pressing charges. Police called to take a statement, and we mostly just laughed about how there's no way anyone would have known she used AFF if she hadn't bitched about it and made a gigantic scene. She was also a lawyer. Nothing came of it. I see nudes on a near weekly basis, and I don't even look for them. In fact, I've had a few couples bring in their failed external hard drives begging me to save their homemade corn. One couple made it very clear that it was okay to look. I guess that was just their thing because they paid me to hook up the hard drive, which was perfectly readable, and then copy everything to another hard drive. I work in a cowboy village where people sometimes ride up on a horse with a laptop in the saddlebag. Too long didn't read? Obscene anatomy picture wallpaper on an ancient machine, child corn, crazy lawyer and adult friend finder, voyeuristic amateur corn makers, cowboys with laptops. This is all the more reason why you should learn something about computers and how to maintain them yourself. Some people keep their lives on their computers, and nowadays our phones and tablets. There's a lot of information we record about ourselves on these devices that would have been lost to time in the past. Sometimes you have to upgrade, these machines don't all last forever. But minimize the outside peering into your lives. Learn how to maintain your equipment, and I mean the computers. Story 4. I worked the help desk for a few departments at a university. Strangest one? One of the senior doctors in one of the programs brought his MacBook in for repair. Upon powering it up, I noticed his background was a portrait-oriented photo of him upside down on his back, leaning against a couch. His face was at the top of the frame. Directly under that was this huge chest tattoo that read Big Daddy, and below that was his penis with a zero-gauge Prince Albert and a couple of bars in his nutsack. Bottom of the frame showed his butt with one of the largest penises I've ever seen in my life inserted about halfway with a set of anal beads hanging out of it next to the car. I had my boss call and ask what the issue with the computer was, as I thought maybe an upset ex had made his background and he wanted it changed. But no, just wanted his entourage backed up. If you met this guy, you'd think he was a kindly old grandfather, which he was. He was just a kindly old grandfather that liked his butt double done, apparently. Did you consider that he was trying to hit on you? I had a guy show me photos of innocuous things and then right in the middle, pow, One of him strung up in a harness with a huge dildo up his butt. Then he moves on to the next innocent picture with a side glance my way to gauge my reaction. Never felt more uncomfortable in my life, and I'm a gay guy. You know, if I was in this kind of job, I could deal with all the nudity in one way or another. If people knew about it, then they knew I was trying to fix their computer. We're all consenting adults and I have a job to do, and these pictures are none of my business. But when it's directed at me, that's where it crosses a line. Like I said, I have a job to do. I got a couple that needs me to back up their homemade corn videos, sir. I don't have time for your advances. Story 5. Recently, a fairly cute girl dropped off her MacBook for repair because it wouldn't start up and would only beep. I replaced the RAM and got the computer going. It booted directly to the desktop, where the desktop was littered with dozens of nudes of the owner. I turned on the login and told her when she arrived that it booted up and I don't have her password to log in and to save face, though I was probably 10 shades of red handing it back to her. Edit. Thanks for all the replies. You've helped a really slow day go by faster. Story 6. When working for a university and department, I had a distinct displeasure of opening up the C drive on a professor's computer. The display default was set to large thumbnails, and the only thing at C drive were folders and one big naked mirror shot of himself. Come to find out, he was big on the dating sites, got himself a mail-order bride from Brazil, and this is what he thought enticed people. Too long didn't read? Naked shots of 60-year-old male tax professor. Kind of the same thing happened to us. On our department shared drive, one of the researchers had a nude shot of him and his wife. Gross. More and more we're using cloud services for personal and work stuff. That's why I don't think personal hard drives will ever go away. We still want our privacy for some things, but also know when to keep things private. Shouldn't be that hard to think, I should not put this nude picture on a shared drive. Story 7. I was approached by a mutual friend asking if I could assist her with a very delicate issue. Her brother had recently committed suicide, didn't leave a note, and they needed a user password removed to search the computer for any answers. I said I could help and told her to bring it to the shop. Why couldn't the police handle this? I don't know. The next day, she brought in an evidence bag along with gloves and instructed me to wear them while handling it. When I took it out of the bag, I noticed some dried blood on the casing of the laptop. Then I opened it up. To this day, I'd say the craziest thing I'd seen on a customer's computer is brain matter. The laptop had been nearby and open when he shot himself. I retract the previous winner. You win. Story 8. Child corn on desktop as desktop background and a screensaver. It was an interesting day at work. I had to poker face it when the police came over and arrested him as he was picking up the machine. I don't get it. Where do these people get CP in the first place? If they do crap like this, you'd think the technical skill required to access the deep web, stay anonymous, etc. would be enough to counterbalance the unbelievable stupidity of something like that. I have the best idea. If I hide my illegal corn as a desktop background, everyone will think it's a funny joke. Person who was promptly arrested. Either fake, or this was the guy's way of turning himself in. Story 9. At my last IT job, I gave my work laptop to our general manager because he needed it to make a presentation on a business trip. This was back in the late 90s when laptops were still making their way into our company. He returned it a few days later with AOL dial-up installed. In the process of removing it from my laptop, I noticed the plethora of Asian ladyboy downloads and web history. I never mentioned it to him. I was too embarrassed. I mean, what kind of sick bastard uses AOL? Ah, the old Reddit kangaroo. It was the 90s, man. Things were loose. Things were wild. We were going to make a whole new world. Good joke on the support guy's part. But also you have to realize AOL disks were everywhere, and that was most people's introduction to internet connectivity. It was easy to understand, and internet providers at this time were small mom-and-pop places that didn't know how to market themselves. Also, this was way before we started to realize the privacy concerns of it all. Story 10. A guy had a folder entirely dedicated to toilet and poop art. From what I could tell, he would lay massive feces in the bog, then use pink or blue toilet paper or whatever to make a rose-like flower around the turd in the bowl. It was weird because the wet paper actually looked kind of pretty and rather rose-like. They were big and took up the entire bowl. However, the crap center of each kind of ruined the magic. I have pretty much zero idea why anyone would do such a thing, let alone photograph it. The internet needed those images. We are poor without them. You obviously have never seen menstrual art. Story 11. There was a research chemist's computer that was infected with malware. I was doing a scan of his computer, and there was like 10 minutes of corn titles being scanned on our malware scanner. But it was organized. There were folders like BDSM, lesbian, bestiality, straight, interracial, self-serving, insertion, etc. Then there were some folders like Japanese, ebony or vegetables, sports equipment. This was the most organized corn collector I've ever seen. Ah, yes, ebony or vegetables. I know a guy that at one point had 4 terabytes of corn organized like that. Story 12. I found a live snake inside one once. I think it's story time. Roaches. Tons of roaches. It was at an agricultural research station. They would take samples of cow's milk from local farmers and test for several things, including percent fat. Roaches would come in with the milk samples, and there was little they could do about it. The smell was awful. I went out and got drunk immediately after. Dead insects or even a small dead rodent in a PC, I can wrap my head around. It's gross, but I can wrap my head around it. A live snake? If that was me on that job, I would have rode the Nope-mobile right out of there with no explanation given or needed. Story 13. Normal-looking guy turned in his desktop for repair, booted up to see the desktop image of a car with a lizard man having intercourse with the exhaust and another lizard man finishing on the hood. That one. What's manly? Dragons. What else is manly? Sex. Anything more? Cars. Okay, got it. So the most manly thing in the world is dragons having sex with cars. Timmy, draw that. Story 14. Oh crap, Alonzo. I got them pictures from the you-know-what as my screensaver. No worries, Jake. I've got a plan. This has to be the best story so far. Story 5. Easily, the time I picked up an old CRT monitor off of a desk to reveal a half-eaten McDonald's burger from years past. Not as much mold as you'd think. Ah, silly rabbit. That's not food. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.